like people are starting to be admitted now. Welcome all. We're just going to give a couple minutes here to get more people in.
As we're gathering, we can run the slide that presents some information about the Palo Alto rental market in 2022.
Sure. Right, so here we go. Sorry about that. There we go. Some trivia. Did you know?
Great, everyone. As we're gathering, we're running a slide presenting some information about the Palo Alto rental market in 2022. Although some attendees may still arrive afterwards, as part of gathering this evening, we wanted to do some basic introductions of the staff working on the city's rental housing stabilization efforts. Tonight, we have Sheldon Ossing, who is principal planner in the city's long-range planning division. We also have Medina Klicheva, who is the assistant to our director of planning, Minka Vanderswag, who is manager of our human services division, and myself, Rebecca Atkinson, and I'm a planner in the long-range planning division. Also working on our team is Jennifer Fine in our city attorney's office and Melissa McDonough in our city manager's office. Sheldon, do you have any remarks at this time?
I do, and I'm also working the slides as well. But anyway, so thank you for your attendance and participation this evening. And we know you have choices to spend your time, and we're happy that you're here. Join us. Renter stability is an important topic to discuss. And while this meeting is targeted towards the rental unit property owner and property managers, renters can also benefit from hearing this information about the registry. So we acknowledge that property owners are an integral part of providing housing to people, and likewise, renters keep property owners in the business of providing housing. So in summary, we will get into more detail about how our registry work plan works, but we are going to try to learn more about this relationship and the rental landscape that will help decision makers with policy decisions that can help address this housing crisis. So we do want to hear from you today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rebecca.
Thank you, Sheldon. As for logistics this evening, we are using a webinar format. The bulk of this meeting will be the question and answer and feedback session. We have staff reviewing the question and answer functions, so please feel free to submit questions as we move through the staff presentation. We prefer you to use the question and answer function instead of the chat, but we can see both. We have recording and closed captioning turned on, and please also feel free to use the hand raising function and we can unmute attendees. Next slide, please. Staff would like to share information about the proposed rental registry program, which I'll conversationally refer to tonight as the registry. Primarily, we are hoping to receive information and feedback from you at this early stage about implementing the proposed registry. Next slide, please. Regarding the agenda for this evening, we have a presentation containing some of the basics on the registry in case anyone is new to the topic. We also provide some updates and a schedule. We're also debuting a draft example of a rental unit registry form in order to support our feedback discussion tonight. We'll then move to questions, answers, as we know them to date, and feedback. As we move through the presentation, note that we can return back to any of these slides if they would be helpful. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. After extensive discussion before the Human Relations Commission, Planning and Transportation Commission, and City Council, at their November 9th, 2021 meeting, City Council supported the creation of a registry and referred the design and implementation to the Policy and Services Committee, including the discussion of items listed on this slide. Subsequently, staff brought the registry to the Policy and Services Committee on September 13th, 2022. The committee supported the registry and provided feedback, including recommending initial registration of rental units in Palo Alto, the types of information to collect, and also recommended event-based reporting, such as when a new tenancy starts. Next slide. The purpose of the registry is summarized here on this slide. City Council is interested in the registry to collect information, to learn more about the Palo Alto rental landscape, and to be able, as Shelton mentioned, to make data-informed policy decisions, support community awareness of the existing renter protections, and support the implementation of the city's housing element goals, policies, and programs. Next slide, please. When the registry is launched by the city, rental unit property owners or property managers would provide the information in the following categories: contact information, rental unit characteristics, rent information, tenancy information, and an affidavit. You'll see these categories again when we show you an example rental unit registry form. Next slide, please. In order to implement the registry, the city needs an enabling ordinance in the municipal code, needs to implement community outreach and engagement, including now in this program development phase, as well as later and ongoing during implementation to assist the community in registering rental units. The registry would utilize a software procurement contract by which the city would obtain a registry website, an online portal, and a database with reporting and CRM capabilities. Next slide, please. The registry is a multi-phase city effort. We've broken it down here into program development and program implementation. Updates in our current phase 1 program development. The city released a request for proposals referred to as an RFP in early March, and we anticipate receiving proposals in April. The proposals will help inform program development as well as later city funding and staffing decisions. Staff has also prepared a draft registry ordinance. Similar to the past, we anticipate going back before the Human Relations Commission, the Planning and Transportation Commission, the Policy and Services Committee, and Council, as outlined on this slide. If an ordinance is approved, we continue to the next phase of program development, including continued community outreach and the registry software development. The later implementation phase would include the registry launch and the initial rental unit registrations. At this time, I'd like to check in with staff to see if any questions are coming in yet using the question and answer function.
Well, yeah, we've got one question so far.
Okay.
And
Great.
it's we have another one coming in. The first one, happy to just put it out there, and I think we can get to it maybe at the end as well. And as you go through the next slides or two, it might help frame it better. But I hear landlords say that a registry will be very burdensome for them. How do you respond to such concerns?
Thank you very much.
So I think,
Actually,
yeah,
I think the next slides might help start framing up any response we might have to that.
Absolutely. That's something that's in the back of our minds as we're going through this for sure, is trying to develop this in a way that would not be burdensome. But let's check out our example.
Great. In the next slides,
My button's
Yeah.
a little sticky. There we go.
it's okay. Great. So we'll now walk you through an example of an initial rental unit registry form. We included this example form in the city's RFP for vendor consideration. It uses the categories of information supported by the Policy and Services Committee that I mentioned earlier. This example form is 3 pages. We've requested opportunities from the vendor for autofill and drop-down menus to make it easier to fill in the form and to promote information consistency. So in this first page of the form, for contact information, we've asked for property owner as well as manager information. You can just see the placeholders on this slide for that information. For rental unit characteristics, we've asked for the property address, the total number of units at the property, year built, amenities. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see the continuation of rental unit characteristics, where we've asked for the number of bedrooms and the rental unit size. So very basic information, often information that's put out when the rental unit is advertised. For tenancy information, we've asked if the unit is rented or vacant. If rented, we've asked for the date of tenancy start. If vacant, we've asked for the reason. For rent information, we've asked for the amount of the security deposit, the base monthly rent amount, if there's any rental assistance or subsidy, total move-in cost, and the amenities and services included in the rent versus those that are for additional cost. Next slide, please. You can see some of the things that I've mentioned here. Next slide, please. Moving forward, thank you. Just as prompts for the question and answer and feedback session, we've listed some example questions you might be asking and some feedback topics that we're interested in. And I'll just pause for just a moment to let you glance at these questions. You might have, plenty on your own. Next steps, please. Next slide, please. So this evening, we're focused on the rental registry program, which is listed as number 1 on this slide. As also shown on this slide, staff is working on additional rental initiatives directed by council. Staff will be bringing the eviction reduction topic and the security deposit limit topic back to council soon. It's listed here as number 3 and number 5. The HRC discussed number 8 on February 9th and will be bringing their recommendations to council in the near term. Number 4 and number 6 will return back to the Policy and Services Committee. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions after this community meeting, please reach out to me with my email address on this slide. And thank you. And let's move on to the question and answer and feedback session.
Let's do that. Thank you, Rebecca. And so far we've got a few questions, and we can go back to the first one as well. And when we're trying to do set this work plan up, we also interviewed other jurisdictions that had registries in place already. So we're trying to get an idea of a sense of kind of what the costs would be, and also how many questions maybe a survey has as we're trying to design our survey. But going back to the first one, Rebecca, we have here, I hear landlords say that a registry will be very burdensome for them. How do you respond to such concerns?
Thank you so much. I've heard that as well, and as a concern, and also as something that if the registry was, moving forward with, that we would need to take that into account seriously. And so I hope in the example form that we showed, you could see the types of information we'd be asking for, and see the opportunity for drop downs and auto populates and so forth. That would make it easier. We hope to have the information requested standard for all rental units, and it's typical for other jurisdictions for property owners to do bulk uploads, things like that. That might be also a possibility, but we have to see what the vendor can offer and so forth. So there are a variety of techniques that other jurisdictions use to try to get the amount of time necessary to fill in the registry down as much as possible.
Thank you. We've got a few more questions, and then I think we'll go. We also have some of the raised hands. Let's take another question here. How much of the cost for implementation of the registry program, and how much is the cost of the yearly maintenance? So I don't think we have that established yet, but maybe Rebecca, through our research that we've done, what's sort of the range that other cities have?
And thank you, Sheldon. Actually, the range of the cost, actually it did range quite a bit between the different jurisdictions that had a registry. Some registrations were under $100, like well under $100 per rental unit, and some were more than $100 per rental unit. And that seemed to be reflective of the technology used, as well as the number of staff in the program, as well as the efficiencies that some cities were able to utilize based on the software procurements already on hand. And so we look forward to the request for proposals and the proposals themselves to help assist with budgeting and understand the cost estimates and so forth.
And I think some of those
also important to note, we have about 11,400 rental units in the city. So most jurisdictions actually do a the average the cost for the rental registry program across all rental units.
And that's a question that we're going to be able to answer more thoroughly once we get our responses from our RFP back for different proposals and vendors in the program. So why don't we go to someone live here has raised their hand. So Jennifer. So Jennifer, can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hi there, Jennifer.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Liu. I'm a Palo Alto resident for over 20 years. I strongly oppose the rental registry program. The rental registry is trying to address a problem which can be easily solved by more advertising of the city and reaching out to tenants about the information. There is no need to implement such an expensive approach. Who should pay for this? So it looks like the landlord is going to pay extra. Now everything is so expensive for landlords, with the maintenance cost, more expensive material and labor. Is already with this cost skyrocketing. It's very hard for landlord already. With the actual cost, housing providers have no choice but to pass expenses to tenants, making housing even less affordable. The San Jose Housing Department used to have 2.5 staff members, and a few years ago, after they implement the rent registry and administer the rental in detail, now they are 10 times as big. I don't think Palo Alto is ready for all the expenses. Please stop government bureaucracy. Try to help housing providers to save costs and give them incentive to provide more affordable housing. That would be the true solution for the housing crisis. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go back to another question answer here. Are single-family home rentals included? And if not, why not? They're definitely part of the Palo Alto rental landscape, which is the stated purpose. So
And
Rebecca, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Yes. The Policy and Services Committee asked for the rental unit registrations to include single family homes that are rented.
Okay, let's go to another person here. It looks like it may be the name it's showing up. Maybe it might be in Chinese or Mandarin characters. I can't tell, so I'm just gonna allow you to talk here.
Hello,
Hi there.
hear me?
I can. Yes.
My name is George. Good evening. I don't know what the real purpose of rental registration in Palo Alto is, but I know first, if you think it can reduce the rent price, you are totally wrong. If the rental business becomes harder and more cost, the cost will eventually shift to the renters. It is common sense. I live in a rental control city, Berkeley. You can clearly see this phenomenon when you compare the rent price with the adjacent city, Albany. Second, some renters don't want to share their privacy. In most cases, my tenants in Berkeley are university students. When we sign the lease, I tell them I have to share your information to city rental board. Some of them don't care, but some of them very mind of this. So I think don't waste money for this unnecessary policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Scott O'Neill.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to address some of our landlord neighbors and say that it's true that the cost will be passed on to renters, but I think that means that the voices the city should be most listening to are those of renters. And I'm not a renter, but the ones I know seem broadly supportive of a registry. And I think the reason is that you can't craft good policy if you don't have good data. And that's what this would get people that, you know, that would be paying into the system effectively. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so question we have here. Hello, I'm a property management company with a property management company. Why does it matter when the property was purchased and when it was remodeled? How do we indicate if it was partially remodeled? How does this protect our landlords and tenants?
Great. Yeah, I could understand why this question would come in as to why would it matter if when the property was purchased or when it was remodeled. One of the things that the city would do is to regularly make our records reflect county records and so forth, and the county records. It's a quality control and quality assurance practice. So we'd be able to know if there was a discrepancy between the records coming in from the county in regard to property sales. There might be a need to trigger a property owner contact information update and so forth, as well as the remodel situation. It might reflect when there might have been a tenancy turnover and things like that. So it's a way of helping make sure that our database is checking in on different points of quality control, as well as being able to verify information that comes in.
Okay. Let's go to a live Jenny Zhao.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I am a property manager. So, I mean, Palo Alto is a small city and has always been very, very expensive. I mean, probably the for sale home are even more expensive than the rental comparing with the neighbor cities. First, it's a small city, so you really don't want to establish something because it's very costly and it's not going to make the rents any cheaper. And if it's for the data collection purposes, then I would recommend have a survey or check on Zillow. That's the asking rent. And Zillow is pretty much a dominant place for property managers or landlords to use to list their places. And rent registry is completely not necessary. Look at the cities that have it. Mountain View, San Jose, San Francisco. Well, none of these places are able to lower their rent and make their rents more affordable. Then the city, other than adding more staffs to administration it, there's really no good use of that. So instead of doing rent registry, maybe consider some voucher program to help the tenants that in need, better targeting the low income families to help them to pay rent and stay housed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a question here. What other cities are having rental registry? Does the rental registry program apply to everyone, including even ADU? So Rebecca, maybe you answered a little bit of this before about single family, but maybe just expand on that and then maybe just
Sure.
say kind of what other cities we had interviewed regarding registry.
Sure. There are quite a few cities, as the last participant mentioned, San Jose and Mountain View, the city of El Cerrito, and the city of Concord, the city of Berkeley, and so there are quite a few. The city of El Cerrito and the city of Concord do the registry program, not in association with like a rent control program and so forth. They just do it for the basics of information gathering and policy setting and so forth. So what's proposed is similar to those two cities in terms of just information collection. And I think that there was a component around ADUs, and yes, ADUs would be required to be registered per the feedback supported by the Policy and Services Committee.
Okay. Let's go to a live Dan Pan.
Hi, my name is Dan. Yeah, as you heard from the other speakers, rental registry is very expensive. San Francisco, San Jose spends millions of dollars for this program. Small city like Palo Alto can afford that. I really doubt it. If city wants to connect the fee for the program, who is going to pay? Eventually tenants will be the ones. Even you want to connect the fee from housing providers, they're going to pass the fee to the tenants if they want to get a survive. As I said, everyone right now is in the danger of bankruptcy. A lot of even housing providers, small papa and mama housing providers, if they want to survive, they have to pass the cost to the tenant. Eventually, this program, you want to help them, right? But eventually, they're going to get an impact by this. And also, rental registry is involves a lot of concern for privacy. Every time when we access the San Francisco, the public information, Berkeley, it scares us. A lot of information will be shared by the public. I don't think the tenants want to share that information as well. So it's going to be a lot of issues and a lot of concerns from, I mean, eventually I should say from a tenant side. Nobody wants to know, the other people know how they spend the money, how much they spend, and where they, even maybe they don't want the people know where they live. So I really hope Palo Alto is a beautiful city, small city, and really think about that. I don't think there's a lot of complaint about the rental registry, the necessary for this program. And really think about the situation in San Francisco and San Jose and Berkeley. Those cities involve this program. There's a lot of issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to Julie Lintha Haynes, or a council member.
Hi there. Thank you so much for putting on this webinar. I appreciate it. My question is really one of overarching purpose of creating the rental registry. I felt that the purpose was, at least in part, to try to get a better sense of who rents in Palo Alto. So I'm wondering if at some point there will be a different form that will allow us to gather race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status or income, the amount of rent they're paying, their gender, so that we can better understand who is the face of a Palo Alto renter and start to focus on trends and figure out who needs to be advocated for and who's kind of doing all right. So I think this is sort of in furtherance of what Scott was asking earlier. I very much appreciate landlord concerns. And I should have said, I'm not speaking as a council member here. I'm not trying to set policy. I'm just here as an individual with curiosity. Yes, we want to take landlord concerns into account, most definitely. And I believe this is also meant to really serve the needs of renters. So can you speak to that piece, please?
Rebecca,
Thank
do you
you.
have
Thank you. I was just taking notes. So I think that one of the feedback questions that we put on our prompt slide was actually to the point that is being spoken of here. What kinds of information do people want the registry to ask? And so that's very much a point of feedback. And so the feedback has been noted. And so, more feedback like
I heard
that.
the excitement from I was on a series. Anybody else got it?
I think that's just some background noise, but Rebecca, if you can finish your.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so this is exactly the type of feedback that we are hoping for, including, as mentioned earlier by other participants, concerns about privacy and so forth. Having all of that information is food for thought and information that we'll take back at and move forward as we take a draft ordinance through the review process.
Let's go to Anil Babar.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. Anil Babar with the California Apartment Association, and I apologize for the background noise. I want to start off by thanking the council member for being here today and listening to the concerns that the housing providers in Palo Alto have with a rental registry. A lot of the concerns have already been noted regarding privacy, cost. Cost is a big issue. It's the reason why the statewide rental registry bill that has been introduced year after year for the last 3 sessions has failed to make it through the legislature. Cost was a presiding factor in rejecting that bill. Privacy is a big issue as well. And the whole notion that whether tenants can even opt out of the system if they don't want their information revealed is a concern. I also want to point out to the staff and the council member that when the city of San Jose reviewed this program, their own impartial auditor recommended against moving forward with it. They felt that it was too burdensome and for the city, it would require too much oversight and regulation and staff time, and they recommended against moving forward. And lastly, as far as the data is concerned, there's a lot of readily accessible data to kind of give you a sense of where Palo Alto is from a rent level basis to get you to understand what are the people in Palo Alto paying. So, as the apartment association and as the representative of housing providers in Palo Alto, we're firmly opposed to any enactment of a rental registry and feel that the city can use its funds to in other more productive ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to Bonnie Liu.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Bonnie Liu, and for this rent registry, I think this is really waste of money. Starting from setting up the system and maintaining the system needs a lot of IT support and also administration support. And all cost a lot of money. Where the money will come from. And all these expenses just to feed the curiosity on who are the renters. Why don't we spend money somewhere else that really help the renters? So rent register is not necessary, at least, and at most it just waste money and waste every resource that could be useful to help the renters. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca, we have a question or so about privacy, and we also heard from Anil about privacy and concerns. So how would a renter's private info be protected? And will all this information be subject to the Public Records Act request?
Thank you for that question. I think that this is a question that we need to definitely receive city attorney feedback on. And I know the city attorney that's working on this draft ordinance specifically included privacy as an item in the draft ordinance that we're bringing forward. So please pay close attention to that portion of the ordinance when the staff reports are released.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to another live participant question. Mona. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Mona. Go ahead.
Yes. My name is Mona. I'm Palo Alto resident. I'm kind of very concerned about this rental registry program. Actually try to implement in Palo Alto. We're just such a small city and the resource is a huge concern. The money I heard the Rebecca was talking about it, we're probably about like 15,000 rental units or something. Each unit costs like $100, which is like then will be $140,000 for this program just to be possibly implement. That also added the cost of each year you maintain, implement maintenance and how many people you need to hire and were you going to enforcing this. And I had it when I read the first slide, it says we're trying to getting a statistics about or the landscapes about how many people live, the renters in Palo Alto, race, gender, all those information. Sometimes, I think there's, I do also have the privacy concerns, are we overbearing to other people's information? If we allow them to opt out, then what information you get? People at this age, especially people in Californians, even we have a state, California has a law to say, you can website, you can just opt out information. So if the renter not willing to put that information, you don't really get much of that. So in terms of you try to getting report of the pricing, all the stuff, yes, I heard some like previous speaker talking about you could get that information from, let's say, Zillow's or some, renters website, or also even, just do a survey from those apartment, big apartment, then you might get some like pretty, roughly information. So I really think this is a very expensive program. We could save the money to serve really needy families that they need, that we could, helping them with money. And then also the resource could be saved with, we have like a lot of, potholes we could fill, fix the parks and fix the street lights. There's a lot of issues we could do. We're just such a small city. I just really don't see why we want to waste the money on this rental registry. And the purpose we're doing that is try to figure out who are the renters or how much they pay, what their demographics. That is really not necessary. We could do something better than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go on to Emily on Ramos. Emily?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Hello, this is Emily Ann Ramos on behalf of SB at Home in support of a rent registry. It's important to know that a rent registry ordinance has been on the books for decades. Enforcing it and implementing it should be a top priority and will be essential to tenant protection efforts. 45% of Palo Alto residents are renters who are being deeply impacted by the high cost of housing in the area. Housing insecurity is the primary cause of displacement and central to increased homelessness. The status quo right now is not acceptable. Now, specifically to the rent registry implementation, we recommend including when a landlord files an eviction notice, including the notice to cure and the unlawful detainer, also known as the UD. This is especially important to track mass displacement events and signs of landlord harassment. There are now a number of cities of various sizes that have a rent registry to gather the information they need to determine suitable policies to protect their longtime residents, who happen to be renters, which are desperately needed. So thank you to the city of Palo Alto for their time and their moving forward for this rent registry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so just a time check here. We're at 6:12. Our meeting goes to 6:30. Just want to make sure we try to get as many people that want to speak as possible, but also want to be sensitive to people's time this evening as well. So we have Catherine. Catherine, you can, there you go. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm speaking as a lifelong renter. My husband and I, 24 years in Palo Alto. My husband has rented in Palo Alto for 40 years since he came out to California to go to Stanford. And I hear the voices of the landlords. I appreciate their concerns, but I do think their satisfaction with the system points to just how heavily weighted toward the landlords the system is. So I really appreciate the opportunity for give the voice to some 45% of the residents who are tenants. And I appreciate that this is an information gathering, making for rental policy decisions. And it's not just about rents, how much things cost. It's really about the quality of life. When we were looking, we were forced to look during the pandemic, and we found there were some illegal situations, some unsafe situations, and as a tenant, it would just be better to shine a light on some of these things because you're really in a one down position if you want to stay where you are or pay a reasonable rent. And I just one other thing I would point out that landlord having a rental is a business, and I think there's nothing wrong in treating it as such. And as a renter, I'm already putting a lot of my private information onto an application that goes to a landlord, and I'm not at all concerned about that information going into a registry. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Iris. Unmute yourself. Okay, Iris, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, we unmuted Iris on our end. Iris, you would need to unmute yourself as well on your laptop or desktop.
Hello?
There you go. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Iris.
we can hear you now.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm Iris. Privacy is not about only about the tenant's income, but also, I'm sorry. Privacy is not only about landlord's income, but also tenant's spending. As tenant, I don't want the rental amount to be public. Don't want to disclose my spending. How much I spending on living is same as paying for food and buying a car. It is my business. I don't want anybody to know how I spending my private life. And the tenants can protect themselves. Whenever the landlord rise out of the rental control, we will report it. I think that all the tenants knows about it. I heard your answer about I heard your answers about the protect privacy, but there's always a chance to leak. Then the city will got a lawsuit, the troubles. It is risk. So I think that I think it's not much useful, but costly and a lot of potential troubles. It is worthless. So I don't want we have this spend the money on here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Alex?
Hello. Hi, my name is Alex Hirsch. I grew up in Palo Alto and my family rented here almost the whole time we were here. And I'm speaking, sharing that I think this is a great idea for the city of Palo Alto. I think, and especially in a place like Silicon Valley, where we know and appreciate the value of good data and market transparency, that this would be a simple, cheap tool that we can create to effectively protect renters better, especially in a city with a adopted budget for 2022 and 2023 of over $1 billion. It would help us create better data that can inform local policymakers here to better protect renters from illegal rent increases, among other issues that they face. In particular, it's difficult to monitor compliance with state laws against illegally large rent increases. This would help with that. It would help advocates as well, and renters and prospective renters themselves to have more transparency as consumers, more easily compare prices. And I think, frankly, every stakeholder in the city would benefit from more transparent and accurate information about the conditions of housing in our city. So I really look forward to the city crafting a good, detailed version of this policy that can become reality. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jill? Yanhua?
Hello, my name is Jan. So I have 3 points I would mostly like to address. The first one is the concerns about our city, Palo Alto. So Rebecca said earlier that other cities who have already implemented this policy are cities such as like Concord, El Sereno. I'd just like to point out that these cities are, I feel like geographically and like socioeconomically at a very different level than Palo Alto. So it doesn't make sense for Palo Alto as a city to follow in the footsteps of cities that are vastly different. The second concern I have is in regards to privacy. This rental registry system, from what I've gathered so far, could potentially allow people to access names and addresses, which would totally be a violation of both the renters and landlord and property owners' information. Secondly, from what I've gathered, the rental registry would work only in cases of eviction and function not as a live complaint system. So either case, the renter is already being forced out of the home and the landlord inspection is coming at a later date. So surely I must believe that the purpose is for renter protection, that there are better cases to do this than a renter registry system. My final concern is that I feel like there's no real gain coming from this this rental registry system. The information gathered is not worth the hassle and could very well lead to both a decrease in renting from renters and from property owners as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We got about 10 minutes, so I want to make sure people were able to kind of talk. So maybe if people could be succinct, or we have Rebecca's contact information here, feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure that we hear you out. Timothy? Yes, I can. Go ahead. Tim.
Great. Hi, my name is Timothy. I was a tenant in Palo Alto starting in 2014. Worked as a data scientist at Google. And I'd just like to say that keeping and maintaining good data for a city of this scale is actually ridiculously expensive, and this price is almost certainly going to be much higher than people initially estimated it as. It costs money to set up a system, maintain, check the data. And I have actually worked pretty extensively with city data across California. And the data, if it's not properly and well maintained by highly trained professionals who, take a fairly large salary, is out of date, useless, or, curated in the wrong way. So this is going to be a fairly expensive system. Second of all, during my time as a tenant, one of the most important things was that I had a very good relationship with my landlord. My landlord was a mom and pop person who had owned a house in Palo Alto for a while and rented it out. And things that make it more burdensome for these mom and pop, I don't know if she was a mom or pop, but she was like an older lady who'd been in Palo Alto for a while. And anything that makes it harder for these people to comply makes it harder for tenants. So, and finally, my last concern is that about privacy. I have heard from some other tenants that they don't mind their privacy and their information being shared. It is true that we do have to reveal a lot of information to the landlord, but not every tenant shares that. And if half the tenants believe in that and half the tenants don't, it is not fair for the city to expose everyone's information when only half the tenants improve. So please, I just urge you to hear from all voices of this issue, tenants, landlords, and finally, I want to say that around the issues like rent control, when the landlord raised my rent, there was a contract in very clear ink describing how much rent was being raised. If it was outside the rent control bound, there was grounds for a lawsuit. There's already this kind of protection, and a rental registry is neither helpful nor important for that. I'd just like to say, please trust the tenants and the landlords and citizens. The privacy concerns need to be addressed, and the issues about data maintenance and collection are going to be significantly more expensive than I think most people will believe. Thank you very, very much, and I believe we should spend the money on more important things like education, job opportunities, or other initiatives that improve Palo Alto. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Amber?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm a rental housing provider currently managing over 200 units in Palo Alto. I'm sure, as you guys hopefully know, our state as a whole has a huge shortage of rental units and should be taking steps to encourage more housing, not deter it. We strongly oppose rental registry, and specifically after reviewing the excessive amount of detail included in your sample form, feel that it would be extremely overreaching and excessively cumbersome to operators to provide that information, in addition to being too expensive for housing providers and inevitably renters. Also, you have mentioned other, local jurisdictions that you've referenced. I would highly discourage you from modeling after some or any of those nearby rental registry programs. We currently operate also in the city of Mountain View, and I can tell you that their process has been highly, highly flawed. And after 3 years, they're still constantly working through countless technical issues, enhancement requests year after year, and they're spending over $100,000 annually on technical support per their annual reports. I'll just quickly say the things you've heard from other speakers. We're already dealing with lots of growing amounts of privacy concerns related to CCPA and CPRA. And those questions on your sample forms are invasive. We're accountable to our residents for their PII and household information. And so if you are going to do that, I hope you would at least allow some sort of opt-out option or things like that related to household makeup. Last thing, and I promise I'll be quick, is that I just also want to comment on how extremely concerning it was what the council member who spoke up earlier mentioned about your current or future intent to collect and require us to provide information related to renters' gender, race, socioeconomic status, and more. That's so alarming to hear as a housing provider related to fair housing protections, documenting and collecting that type of information, and it would likely open up the city and housing providers to future lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you. Leanna? You're able to unmute
Yes,
yourself.
thank
There you go. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I've been a realtor in Palo Alto for 33 years. However, I'm speaking as an individual and not on behalf of the Silicon Valley Association of Realtors. I concur with several of these past speakers who are very knowledgeable and have worked with such rental registries. First of all, we have many, many small mom and pop owners in Palo Alto who depend upon the rentals for their income. And this would absolutely be very burdensome and overwhelming to a lot of our good owners, coupled with the fact that we're trying to encourage the development of ADUs now, and to include ADUs in such a program will definitely discourage owners from developing ADUs, which would help our housing situation. So this really speaks to the issue also of the privacy, as the previous speaker just said. This opens up many cans of worms about the privacy of the tenants, and putting this burden on the smaller owners will discourage them, and perhaps that we may end up with sales where people would have continued to rent to those who need this rental housing. So it's a very expensive program to set up and maintain. This all came about when the President's Hotel was redeveloped. And I think that this is really beyond what we should be doing within our city to encourage owners to provide rentals. Thank you.
Thank you. Kwan?
Hey, hi. Hi, my name is Kwan here, and actually, Palo Alto is in the center of Silicon Valley. Is some of my friends also call this the center of the new Universal. So Palo Alto is great. And for the rental registry is also great. We should collect all the data from the tenants, include their name, their sex, their age, their rent, whatever, okay? And also for the landlord. Let's collect all the information and keep it and use it, and then make Palo Alto most powerful city. And whenever the tenant do something bad, the landlord do something bad, let's beat them up. Okay, so let's make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwan. Next, we have Zoom user. Zoom user, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, my name is Phil, and I'm post rental registry. I said, why Bay Area state officials so hypocrites? One county asking housing provider not to do any criminal background check, yet Palo Alto is asking housing provider and tenant to register information. I mean, do Palo Alto know what is Privacy Act about? No, we are not criminals. We are just a law-abiding citizen, taxpayers. Do something more positive. Use the money to allocate to fund the police or pass some pothole in the street. It's a way. This is really a waste of money, the way I see it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're coming up on the closing time here, but we have just a few hands up. Katie? Katie, go ahead.
Hi, yes. We're a property management company here in Palo Alto with, a little bit over 300 doors. And I feel like we have always strived to do what we can for our landlords, but at the same time with our tenants. And we feel like trying to be fair, our landlords giving our tenants discount rates or even helping them during this hard time, through the pandemic and going forward with the layoffs and then the bank going down. We just feel like this additional fee plus the cost of taxes, insurance going up, it's going to force the landlords to ask for more from the tenants. And we're really trying as a middleman to help our tenants out, but also our landlords out to keep the costs down and have tenants be able to live here, have their kids go to school, have them really just enjoy life in Palo Alto. Meanwhile, our landlords who could pay for the expenses, right? And take care of their tenants and pay the bills. So we just feel like this additional cost will force us and force our landlords to add more to the tenants. So I don't think this is beneficial to the tenants. And this is speaking in the grounds of a middleman, someone trying to work on both ends. We want to make it work. We want families to live here. We want kids to go to school and enjoy life here. And this additional cost would just do the opposite of that. So we're against this additional cost. We're against filling out this information. We're against, putting our clients' information out there. So we think that this is a terrible idea.
Thank you for your feedback. Albert?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Albert.
Yeah, my name is Albert Shu. I'm a resident of Palo Alto for more than 20 years. I really don't think this rental registration is necessary because I barely heard any report or news about any problems of the health, safety, security, law violations related to rental housing in this area. Those are issues I guess the rental registration admin is supposed to manage for. However, I think affordability is the major problem in Palo Alto area. But the rental registration admin won't solve, but could potentially make it even worse because administration cost eventually is likely passed on to the tenants. Now it sounds to me you have the headaches, but you're curing your feet without problem. Yeah, that's I think that won't make your headache any better. I think there are quite a few more urgent issues like public safety, traffic, parking space, etc. The city should focus on more important problems, not a waste of limited resource to do the rental registration admin, which won't solve the problem in Palo Alto, but only create a unnecessary bureaucratic process which wastes all taxpayers' money. Yeah, that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Mena?
Hi, this is Mena Young. I'm a small property owner and I'm helping.
You cut out there a little bit, Mena. I don't know if it's an internet issue.
All the other things that come with age. And they are the ones that really need the income from rental by sharing housing. And by having another additional burden, there's no way. I mean, it's still as well on top of all the other rental regulations, they cannot take it anymore. So you will lose more housing than what you gain. And also on top of it, adding costs and more bureaucracy and more maintenance. There's a lot of data already online. I think the census data pretty much has everything if you really look into it, and they do very frequent surveys. So I hope you have looked into it and make use of it. Please do not force out any more rental housing stock that you really need. So it's not a good policy to have. So do not add the rental registry. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. And John? Now go ahead and unmute yourself. John Ellman. There
Okay.
you go ahead.
This is the first time I've ever done this, and it took me 20, 30 minutes to get on the program to begin with. I'm a little older. I own a couple of buildings. I worked, I saved, I invested in a couple of little buildings here in Palo Alto, and these buildings are my retirement income. We earn enough money in the buildings to remodel kitchens, to re-insulate, to put in new pipes, to put in to spend a lot of money on the properties. The discussion so far sounds like the city assumes there's a monolithic landlord. The fact is, it's a highly competitive business. You've got all those rental units. You're going to share information. So far, all I've heard is you're going to share information about the tenants. By law, I can't share information about the tenants. I can't tell a tenant, gee, you're lucky, you're going to live next to a carpenter and a doctor. I can't even say things like that. And we bury and shred the information we get on applications and on their rent checks. We eliminate in the interest of privacy. So far, I've heard the city is going to gain, but what are the tenants going to gain? I had empty buildings, 2/3 of my buildings, 3/4 of my buildings were empty for about 2 years. I had no income. We couldn't keep up with the expenses. And I don't like you probably don't like the price of rent. Well, I don't like the price of cottage cheese. I used to pay 29 cents a carton. Now it's about close to high $3 a carton. Are you looking into the high price of groceries here in town? It's a credit to the community. First of all, you people are too young, but I've lived here for 60 years in Palo Alto. At least twice, maybe 3 times, the city in a citywide vote has voted down rent control. So wise people understand what's going to happen when the city gets involved in the rental business, like Berkeley. My son went to Berkeley. The rental options up there are terrible. Nobody takes care of the properties. They can't afford it. There's rent control, and there's a lot of so on. I'm telling you, it's a highly competitive business, and the tenants benefit from that. Whatever the problems are with tenants, the few times somebody's evicted improperly, in your opinion, you can go after that. That person should complain, and that something should be done. But the giant majority of this stuff works pretty smoothly as far as I can tell. Thanks.
Thank you. So we've run out of time here. I appreciate all of the feedback that we've gotten. I know we didn't get to all of maybe the questions and answers here or so, but leaving Rebecca's contact here, and we can definitely get back to you. We'll get your feedback and put that into the record going forward. This is all very, very important feedback that we've received from you this evening. So I hope it was beneficial for you as it was for us. So thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you all.